Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friends in Recovery podcast with Jersey Ed. I'm your host, Jersey Ed, along with my one co-host today. It's Beach Beth today. I guess you're going to the beach, Beth.
I am. I'm so excited.
All right. And Bambi is feeling under the weather today. So we wish her a speedy recovery because we don't know what we're doing. And we need you back, Bambi. So
your story. Get back here, Bambi.
That's right. That's right. And today we have Megan, just Megan, on our show today. She's going to share some of her amazing story. That's just incredible. I heard a little bit of it. So stay tuned for some amazing recovery. Just if you guys want to get a hold of us, if you want to find out how Bambi is doing, you can in fact call the hotline at 800-989-6504, and that'll ring directly to me. And I will answer it and tell you. I'll give you an update on Bambi. So try it out. Don't text Beth because we have a show going on and she does not need to be distracted.
I'm always distracted.
You are. There's those little shiny things and you're all over the place. So if you'd like to email us, the show, help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. And if you want to email us personally, my email and Beth's email is directly underneath us. Send us an email, and we are looking for an intern. We need an intern. 5 quit already because they could not fit into the bikini. No, that's not why they quit.
You gotta stop with bikini, man. No more bikini.
Banana. What do we call it? Banana
hammock.
Banana hammock. That's it. Yes, banana hammocks we're looking for now. So Megan's like, why am I in this show? Why did I get into recovery for this? Anyways, email us directly, and we'd be more than happy to answer whatever fan mail we get, which I don't get any, but I'm sure Beth gets it all. And also look for us on all of our social media, Friends in Recovery community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and give us a whatchamacallit, a little button. Smash
that like button. Subscribe.
That's right. Smash that subscribe button. Right? Isn't that all those people say on YouTube?
That's what the famous people say. I'm just trying to fake it till I make it. Yeah, smash that subscribe button.
Oh, you're famous, Beth. Believe me, everybody knows you on this podcast. So
infamous, maybe not.
That's famous. Right. That's right. No, just make sure you set that the bell so it tells you when the podcast is going to be up, right? You want to see this episode with Megan because Megan has an amazing story. So you should set that bell for next week so you can see Megan, hands down. And then you can turn it off afterwards, but I wouldn't.
You're funny.
Anyways, so we're here. I was gonna say we're coming to the Purple Heart part of the show, but we're coming to the hearts part of our show where we ask all of our viewers to give us some hearts. And of course, Beth has her black hearts, me, my blue hearts, and we have Megan with her red hearts. Bambi is purple hearts, and we will not accept hearts today when somebody is absent. So Bambi is off the list.
Before the show, I was like, maybe we need to cut Bambi a break. She's not feeling well. Maybe we should send her some hearts. But you know what? Fuck that shit. No hearts for Bambi.
That's right. No hearts for Bambi. We hope a speedy recovery, though.
Yes.
So also, I'd like to thank all of our donors who made this show possible. And don't forget, Friends in Recovery Podcast is part of the FIRE Network. For more information on any of this stuff we just told you, again, go to our website, friendsinrecoverycommunity.org. Beth, it's sober shout out time. And Megan, do you have any sober shout outs?
So is that people that are getting ready to celebrate, or can I just shout out to anybody?
Anybody. You could shout out to anybody, anything.
All right. Well, then I sober shout out to my husband because he deals with me. Yeah. He's been sober for 8 years now. So yeah, he deals with me and my craziness. So I definitely give him a shout out. Definitely. Whenever
does husband have a name, or you just call him husband?
Oh yeah. Well, I call him Babe. Everybody else can call him Kenny.
Okay, Kenny. All right.
Good job, babe.
Good job, babe. So yeah, Kenny, 8 years. Congratulations, and I'll just stop right there. Because I didn't want to go into he deals with Megan because Megan's our guest.
Good job.
So I know when to stop, right? I know when not to cross the line anymore. So Beth, how about you? Any sober shout outs?
I'll give a shout out to my husband, Dan, who deals with my crazy shit.
Dan. All right. We know your husband's name, Dan. And there's other names that you call him, but we're not allowed to say them in front of him. So well, while everybody's giving shout outs to husbands, I'll give a shout out to my husband. No, I mean my wife. No. Stacy. Come on, laugh, Beth. Everybody, I want to be part of the crew. So Stacy puts up with my shit all these years too. So but sober shit she puts up with, which is good with all of us. You know, I mean, we're still crazy. How long have you been married? Yeah, really? You're gonna ask me that? Come on. She listens, Beth.
You're fucked.
Carl, cut that out. Carl, please cut all that out. I think it's 13. Okay. I think it's 13 years now. We've been together almost 20 years. So
yeah, I ask my husband all the time. I'm like, what are we celebrating this year? Is it 20, 22? I don't even know. I think it's 21 this year. My marriage will be legal to drink, I think. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh my God. And what else do we have? The sober shout outs to Carl and his book and Chelsea, right? Guys, 366 fucking days sober. Go buy the book. Listen to the podcast, Soberpod. Over to the left, turn the dial. They are over there doing some good stuff in California. And Chelsea too. Chelsea's an amazing part of that show. So please stop and listen to those guys over there. So yes, Cindy confirmed, my neighbor, it is 13 years that we've been together and we've been married. So and don't forget about our twice daily AA meetings on Zoom at friendsandrecoverycommunity.org. You can find all our AA meetings that we have on there that BAMI hosts a lot of. Please, join us for some of those AA meetings. So here it is, Beth. You know what time it is.
Question of the week.
Question of the week.
There you go. And it's question of the week. And the question of the week this week is, do you know how to relax? That's it. Pretty simple because it is Rest and Rejuvenation Month here on Soberpod. It's Rest and Rejuvenation Month on Soberpod. This is not Soberpod. It's Friends in Recovery. So that's the question is, do you know how to relax? Obviously, everybody can answer that question for me. Okay.
No, you do not know how to relax.
No, so we'll skip me and we'll go directly to Megan. Megan,
okay.
Do you know how to relax?
Well, I didn't used to.
Okay.
Then when COVID hit and I'm stuck in the house with 3 teenagers, not working, I had to learn how to step away and teach myself how to relax, just spend some time meditating. So that was one of the things that came out of COVID for me was I was able to kind of learn how to relax. Before I was just nonstop, 100% all go. And then now it's like I've learned to listen to my body more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's it. A lot of people learned how to relax through COVID. And I do know how to relax. I do my meditation. I have my me time from 4 a.m. to 6:30 every single day. And I relax then. Just once you're on, you're on. I'm that person. The switch turns on, I go, the switch turns off, I go to sleep. So, but yeah, that's so true. A lot of us found how to relax in COVID because there's really nothing we can do. So, as far as that goes. But Beth, how about you? Do you know how to relax?
100% yes.
Okay.
100%.
Surprising. Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, that's surprising. Really? But yeah, I totally know how to relax. Like I know how to take a step back. I know how to close my eyes. Like, I'm on board with relaxing.
Okay. I'm bored with, so we're all on board with the relaxing. So, hey, excuse me, if you guys have any answers to that question, put it in the Facebook or the comments below. And I'm done with that question. It was not an easy question to find. These questions this month were not easy, so I'm done with it. Unless you guys want to talk about it, I can go, do some paperwork for the show if you want. No. Anyways, all right. Let's read today's 366 fucking days sober. We're going to actually read yesterday's, August 18th, if you don't mind.
Yep, totally. August 18th. When you say yes to one thing, you say no to something else. Remember that the next time you decide to take on a side project or help a neighbor move. All good deeds don't go unpunished. We only exchange one moment for another. As they say in AA, a price had to be paid. And we may pay for it by missing time with our family and friends, not having time to take our dog for a walk, or just sitting and watching the evening news. When we say yes to too many things, we get overwhelmed and naturally get resentful at the lack of time we have for ourselves. So learn to say no more often so you can say yes to something else. Give yourself the most precious gift of the most non-renewable resource in the world, the gift of time. Wow, that was really good. Reflection. Are you people-pleasing too much lately? And if so, why? Daily challenge. When someone asks you for a favor, try saying no, but say it nicely. Listen, okay. I'm just upset there was not one curse word in there.
There wasn't. I know. That's a good reading.
That was a really good one.
Even without the curse words. And that kind of ties into all this stuff that we're talking about, relaxing and knowing how to relax. And that's one way, because I know for me, if I say yes to too many things, I can't relax at all. There's just no relaxing. And then like the book said, the resentments and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's a great reading for today. And, I just love reading those readings, but that's not what this show is about. That's Soberpod. Go listen to Soberpod, because after they read that, they talk about it. And we're not that cheesy. We're not that, we don't do that shit, right? We bring people on like Megan, right? Like Madonna, but Megan, we don't have Madonna. Megan doesn't have a last name. Megan said she does just want to be identified as Megan, right? Megan. So Megan, welcome to the show.
Well, hello. Great to be here.
Well, it took a lot to get you to this point to talk. We go through a lot of crap that we have to talk about, but this is the meat and potatoes of the show. This is where we like to have somebody shine and talk about their recovery. And you and I know each other from the field. And when I met you, you told me your story and I almost fell off my chair. So, and it's an amazing story. Bambi texts us both, and you got to hear her story. I'm like, yeah, I know it, Bambi. So, but so let me ask you, who is Megan? Who are you, Megan?
Right now I'm a dog mama.
There's a dog. And who is that? Who's the dog?
This is Miles. This is my actual baby. Miles. I love him more than my kids. So that's why he's able to stay in the room with me. And I shove the kids in their room. So, well, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, all things that were given to me, through recovery. Because before that, I was none of those things, I do work in the field of recovery. I'm a peer recovery coach. So I get to help other people get into treatment, which it's a love-hate relationship with that job, because, you know what it's like dealing with people like us. we're difficult to deal with. So yeah, I could jump in now a little bit about my story, or I can let you ask me some more questions, but yeah, that's generally in a nutshell, kind of who I am. I mean, I'm a beautiful child of God. Also,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I developed a great relationship with God through my recovery too.
That's great. Well, you said, I want
to hear her story.
Yeah. Okay. Go tell us your story.
I gotta hear this. Like, everybody's like, I fell off my chair, and I'm like, nobody's told me anything about your story. So I want to hear your story. Like, what happened?
All right. And like I said, I like to talk a lot, so I might have to
We'll jump in. Don't worry.
We'll jump in. Okay. So just a little bit what it was like growing up. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. My father was a heroin addict. I started using pain pills with my mom when I was about 13. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen the show Dope Sick or Painkillers, the one, where how easily back then it was to get addicted to opiates. My mom ended up getting addicted to it gradually. And as a teenager, she would give it to me for, just little pains, not even thinking anything about it. So, all I knew was when I took it, I felt normal because all the voices in my head shut up. I felt like I could fit in. And gradually I got addicted to it. So I dropped out of high school. Me and my mom would just go doctor hopping and things like that. And that became my childhood, basically from the time I was 13 to 18. I remember a lot about my dad growing up. I'm from Texas. So I remember the Dallas SWAT team showing up to look for him. I remember finding him sitting out on, our garage floor. Things like that growing up. That was it kind of in a nutshell. It was very dysfunctional. I didn't know how to live as an adult when I became 18. And when I was 18, my mom actually got arrested for prescription forgery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So about that time, my dad had moved up to Maryland to get sober. I think at that point, he had 2 years sober when my mom got arrested. And let me tell you, I hated my dad. I mean, I blamed him for everything. I do what we do. I blamed him for everything. He was the reason for our problems, which, growing up in a family like that, as a child, that really isn't your fault, So a lot of blame did go on him. And I didn't learn how to let a lot of that go till I got into recovery. So I ended up picking up that payphone, actually, kind of outed myself with age here, because we didn't have electricity. We didn't have phone, all these things. We didn't have any of that. We didn't have food. And that was like the hardest phone call I had to make, was picking up that phone to call him and tell him I had a problem. Thank God he was in recovery because he had me on a plane ride up here from Dallas that day.
Wow.
So he brought me up. He, had me sober up with, he owns a flower shop. So I remember sobering up, coming off opiates in the back of his office and withdrawing off opiates. I mean, it was a miserable time. So very miserable time. And I remember being so scared because I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was going to do, what was going to happen. My whole life had just crumbled around me. So he ended up started taking me to AA meetings, and immediately I compared out of that because I didn't think I was an alcoholic. I didn't really ever drink. So I did what good alcoholics do. I started drinking, but I didn't drink normally what you would consider a normal alcoholic would do. I remember drinking bottles of Listerine and bottles of vanilla extract because the voices were still there and I didn't know how to shut them up. And I didn't know enough about this disease to really know anything. I thought AA was a bunch of bull crap. I didn't believe anything anybody was saying. Here I was at that point, 19 years old and just not really knowing how to be a 19-year-old kid, basically is what I was.
Yeah.
So at that point, that's what I was doing. I was going to different grocery stores. I was picking up like toothpaste and cookie stuff with the vanilla extract, just so people didn't think that I was drinking it.
Oof.
Long story short, I ended up meeting a guy. And
that always goes that way.
Yeah. He was my higher power. He was my fixer. You know, I mean, I was in love after a month. So, he was my true love. So, but he did what I wanted. He drank and he got me beer and liquor and I fit in. I felt like I was normal because that's what people at that age did. So, I ended up drinking and I would drink as friends under the table. And it was in my mind, it was a great time. I ended up getting pregnant with my son and I was going on 20 at that point. By the grace of God, I did not drink through that pregnancy. And that's what that was. I didn't drink. But I had this mentality that when my son was born, that I was going to be able to have this normal family, like the white picket fence, the Leave It to Beaver family. We were going to do sports and PTA and all this other stuff that I didn't have as a kid. And we all know that outside things can't fix an inside problem because the minute my son was born, that didn't happen. I loved him. At that point, I realized kind of what my dad, I started to realize how my dad was at that point. I knew he loved me, but he couldn't stop because of me. So, and that's what happened when I had my son. As much as I wanted to stop and as much as I wanted to be normal, I couldn't. I did things as a mom that I am extremely unproud of. I would drink with him in the car. I would stop at liquor stores. I would, my mom at that point was out of jail, and I would call her up and manipulate her to fly me pain pills up here from Texas, and she would do it. So I was doing all these things with my little baby in the car.
Now, you were 20 years old at this point, you said?
I was 20.
Okay. And dad is still in recovery at this point?
Dad is still in recovery, yes.
So dad's not putting up with your shit probably, right?
No, he was not. We were not talking at that point.
Okay.
After I had my son. Correct?
Okay.
So yes, we were on the outskirts at that point, because he didn't approve of the dad. He didn't approve of the way I was behaving, which rightfully so. But I wasn't going to listen to him, because look what he had put me through. I didn't care what he was telling me. Plus, we're addicts and alcoholics who, when you're in the depths of our addiction, nobody wants to listen to someone telling us that we're doing something wrong.
That is true.
Right. Yeah.
I'm right. Nobody else is.
Yeah, that's true. Nobody else is right. Stubborn teenager. A stubborn child is basically what I was. I never really grew up. But so that went on for a little bit. I was working at a different flower shop at that time. And around this time, my son was 4 months sober. I'm so 4 months sober. 4 months old. And I would basically drop him off at his grandparents, and I would pick him up. And there was one night that I was extremely tired. It was around Christmas time, and I was working a lot of hours. And I decided that night to get my son's dad to pick him up. Well, my mom had flew me up pills from Texas, and I stopped at the liquor store to get a pint of vodka. And I was going to be good that day. I wasn't going to drink it on the way home. Of course, I was high as a kite. And we have this long, windy road going to our house. And I remember going around the corner and flipping my car 3 or 4 times and crushing the whole car.
Oh my God.
With your son in it?
No. Thank God that night. It was a godsend, because that night I was so tired. I decided to get his dad to pick him up. And so, I mean, it broke the 3rd and 4th thoracic vertebrae in my back.
Oh my God.
They had to fly me to shock trauma. And so it was a pretty rough experience. And I remember a good bit of it. They ended up finally releasing me. But of course, we know I was more pain medicine, except now it was prescribed to me. And the one thing that I did the minute I got out of that hospital was I knew that pint of vodka was still in that car.
Yeah.
And my son's dad take me to go get that pint of vodka. And yep. I mean, that's, it was a fresh bottle of vodka, of course, I'm in pain.
Can't waste it.
Take it.
Can't waste it. Yeah.
That's right.
So we went and got it. And my mom flew up from Texas to help out with the baby. And so that's what I did. I drank and I used. And for about a month, this went on. I remember getting really, really sick. And, the voices were so bad. I'd wake up and they wouldn't go away, and I was still alive, and I didn't know how I was still alive, and I couldn't shut them up. And I remember downing whiskey and just throwing it up and just downing more just to try and shut those voices up in my head. And I couldn't shut them up at that point. Nothing was working. So like I said, this went on for about a good month, and I remember getting really sick. And then the next thing I remember, one night being so sick and then nothing other than waking up at Johns Hopkins with my dad by my bed telling me how to liver transplant.
Oh my God.
So they told me that by the time they had gotten me to Hopkins, they'd given me 48 hours to live, that my liver was so bad at that point that there was nothing they could do. All the toxins were in my brain. My whole body was shutting down, and there was nothing they could do. They started looking for, a liver.
How old were you, Megan?
I was 21.
21.
Wow. I was 21.
With a 4-month-old or a year-old child now? Was it? He was
6 months old.
6 months old, and you're in the hospital waiting for a liver, possibly dying.
Yeah, they basically told people to start preparing for a funeral. Because the chances of finding a liver it would have been a miracle to find one.
And of course, you stop drinking and life goes on and everything's good at this point, right?
Oh, God, no.
See, I know your story, so that's why.
No. I still went out and drank after I got that new liver.
Really? So how long?
But I did.
How long did it take to get the liver?
They found one in 48 hours. They
Wow.
they were actually they flew my brother up from Texas. I have a younger brother, and they were going to take part of his, and they ended up finding a liver in Puerto Rico. And there were 3 guys ahead of me on the transplant list in the tri-state area. I was at Hopkins, and their doctors didn't want to go check it out because it was in Puerto Rico, and mine flew down there, and it was it was the whole liver, and they brought it back, and it was a perfect match for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was in Hopkins in and out for about a year.
Oh my God.
Done so much trauma to my body. They ended up having to drill a hole in my head. I lost all my hair. My lung had collapsed. I had I've counted. I think there's 4 holes from a chest tube. Trach. I lost the ability to walk and talk, and because I was in ICU for so long. So it was a lot of recovery process after I had it.
Wow. So this is after the liver transplant. You had to go through all this on top of that.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So then you stopped drinking after that, right?
No.
No.
No. When I got out of the hospital, I mean, of course, I believed I was an alcoholic at that point. So my dad was dragging me back to meetings, and I was miserable and sitting in the back of the room and didn't believe that didn't think that my life was going to be anything. I didn't have friends. I didn't know what to do. I did manage to go back to school to be a medical assistant.
Okay.
But I wasn't working any type of program or anything. So when I got ready to graduate from medical assistant school, I went out with a bunch of friends and got drunk, and I justified it completely, saying I had this new liver, and
Oh, gee.
I got to test drive my new
test
liver.
this baby out.
So yeah, I'm like,
God.
drink, it's okay. So that's, I didn't drink for very long. I got sober when I was 23. So I drank often. I mean, because I got out of the hospital basically when I was 22.
Okay.
So it was about a year off and on of drinking until I got sober at 23. My sobriety date is January 14th, 2009. So I got sober then. And yeah, so that's what, it was it was a big recovery process for the transplant, and just in general.
So did they give you like an ultimatum about you can't drink? I mean, I'm sure they knew why your liver was bad, right? I mean,
they did, and it was a lot of it was the mix of the opiates and the acetaminophen.
Oh yeah,
is what killed it. So it was all the opiates over the years, because back then when they made Vicodin and things like that, it had a lot of acetaminophen in it, and I was taking probably 40 of them a day.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
holy shit.
So I was taking a lot. That, and
wow.
then when you topped it with all the drinking, it just killed me.
Decimated your poor little liver.
Yeah,
wow.
Ate it up. The surgeon that did my surgery said it was one of the worst livers he'd ever seen. So,
wow.
One of the miracles of this program was that when I was dying and they were trying to get people's blood to see if they were a match, my dad being so involved in recovery, they said they had seen the most people come donate their blood.
Wow.
They were a match for me than they'd ever seen before. And it was
wow.
That's crazy.
You love AA, man. They show up.
Yeah.
They're all alcoholics, so I'm sure their livers weren't great, but
they all showed up.
They all showed up.
That's it. So what was the final, enough's enough, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and, let me do it your way. What was that? What did that look like?
It was very simple, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember sitting in a basement with my son, and I remember the big book being there. I did have a sponsor, and I tried. I really did. I picked up tons of 24-hour chips. I would lie about picking up, 4 or 5 month chips, saying that I was sober. And I just remember sitting there and looking at that baby and that big book and saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't. And calling my sponsor and said, I'm ready. I'm ready. And at that point on, I picked up the big book. I started reading and doing what was suggested.
Wow. So you didn't go to rehab? You didn't go to detox? Nothing?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Wow. You're lucky.
Yeah. Holy cow.
I mean,
So-
you're lucky that you're alive. Like,
Yeah.
you're lucky to be alive.
Hands down. Yeah. I mean, 100% you're lucky to be alive. I mean, you're a miracle. I mean, a couple times over, like survived the drinking, survived the liver, survived the liver again after you got it, drinking again. So from when you got the new liver to staying sober, you said it was only a couple months?
From when I got the liver to staying sober. Well, no,
I'm sorry, to getting sober on January 14th, 2009.
Yeah. So I got out of the hospital in February. Was it January or February of 2010?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2010. So, and so it was a good year. It was about a year because not 2010. So I had the liver in 2007.
Okay.
2008 is when I got out of the hospital. 2009 is when I got sober.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it was off and on for probably about a year that I was picking up and stuff like that. If that makes sense.
So and the opiates were involved, or just the drinking basically at this point?
Yeah. Well, I was taking pills too.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So were you ever scared in that time when you got this new liver and drinking and saying, I mean, like this could like kill me again?
No, because at that, still at that point in my life, I didn't care about being here. I was actually very depressed, and I thought that it was a waste of a liver because I didn't think that I was, worthy enough to have it. And I remember going through a very bad depression because of it when I was in the hospital, thinking, why did they give this to me? Because I don't deserve it.
Wow.
That's crazy. So you got into some depression, you kind of drank your way through it, but then when you got sober, were you still in that depression? Did you still have some mental health issues as far as that goes? I mean, because that can't be easy. That's some major trauma you went through. I mean, major trauma, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yeah. So I did. I mean, there was still a lot of work to be done. I just took away the drinking and the pills, but there was, even though you take that away, there's still me, and there's still all those voices in my head that takes time. It takes work, working the steps and developing a relationship with God or your higher power and coming out of my shell and dealing with a lot of past traumas from my father and my mom and, things like that. So I did nothing perfect in recovery. I mean, I jumped from men to men to men. I developed an eating disorder that was also had to be dealt with. And it was a lot of just different things that had to be dealt with along the way.
Wow.
So it was a long process, but today I'm happy. I'll get to that point, but today I don't want people to think that, oh my God, this is horrible. Who wouldn't want to go through all this? But you can't do so much to your body and live for so long like that and then expect to jump right into being happy. I mean, I guess maybe there are some people. For me, I couldn't. I did so much for so long. And here now I was basically a single mom because I left my son's dad because he decided to go out and drink and party while I was in the hospital. So I left him. He is one of us, and he has said that. Now, he's not in recovery right now, but he has said that he has a drinking problem. So here I was, a single mom, transplant, alcoholic, addict, trying to get sober and just trying to do it, as much on my own as I could.
That's crazy. That's it's just a crazy story. I mean, thank God you're here. There's a reason why you're here. It's funny you said, why did I get this liver? Well, there's a reason why, and I want to bring back to that. I want to ask you, you said peer support. That's what you do, right? Is that I want to jump into some of the good stuff that you're doing now. So what is a peer support? What is that?
Well, what we do more than just get people into treatment and into recovery. We go in with patients and we share our story.
So you're talking about going where? Into a hospital?
No, into a hospital. Yeah, I work in the emergency department at Carroll Hospital. So, So yeah, when they come in, we kind of get flagged. So if they have a problem, there's screenings that are done, or they'll come in and say they want help. And then us as peer, support people, recovery coaches, we go in and we share our story with them. We share, it's kind of like being in the rooms of AA and you sharing your story in AA. We go in and they relate to us. So a lot of nurses and doctors will even say that we get more out of these patients than any one of them ever could.
Wow.
Because they
100%.
Yeah, they relate to us. And then if they do want treatment or they do want help, we line it up. I mean, anything we can, we try and get them support in any way, not just in recovery and in treatment. I mean, if we send them directions if they need housing or clothing or food, or they need help with their kids, or, all those things, we help direct them in different ways that we can direct them. But the biggest part is that we connect with them on a recovery level.
Yeah. Yeah. And that sounds like why you got your liver. I mean, to me, that sounds like, I don't know, but, and then earlier also you were talking, and I can't remember if it was before we opened the show or after, but you said something about God and you said higher power. You said, I don't know exactly what you said, but do you mind talking a little about your higher power, God? And because it seemed like you were pretty firm. This is where I'm at today because of God. That's what I got out of it when you're saying that before.
Yeah. So, in the beginning, I think that was the hardest thing for me, was developing a relationship with God, because I came into the rooms, even with this new miracle, and everybody would say, how do you not know this is a miracle? How do you not, because I had such a resentment towards God, towards my higher power. I do call it my higher power God. So, I had such a resentment, and because I felt like I was, got the short end of the stick as far as my life had gone.
Okay.
I had a hard time with really, thinking that I was worthy, like I said. So over time, with all the stuff that I kept going through, I kept noticing all these women that were being put in my life, carrying me through. And eventually, because of them showing me the way, and my sponsor, I have the most amazing sponsor. She is very outside issues. She is very involved in church, but she has an amazing story in recovery. And with her love that she showed me, helped me develop a relationship with God today, because, it showed me that there are good people out there. And, when I started to actually help other people in recovery, it's like the door, something just opened, a light just came through. And today I talk to God every day. I mean, I don't just sit down and pray. I mean, literally, I will talk to God if I lose something. I just talk to him. Yeah. He's my best friend. I talk.
Best way to be, man.
Yeah.
Anything.
So you said something about your love from your sponsor. Were you loved when you were growing up? Were you? I mean, so you. Well, let's go back a little bit, because you said you were 15 and you were running around with your mom, eating opiates all day long. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's crazy. Number one, that's incredible. Number two, and what kind of love could be there from a parent that's doing that, right? I mean, I guess she loved you the best she could, but it wasn't the love that you needed to get you through what you had to get through, right? I mean, do you mind talking a little bit about that?
No, not at all. So I mean, and it's funny because growing up, like you said, my mom did do the best she could. I don't believe that was obviously what she intended. So obviously that's not what she intended. Growing up, she did push us with really good morals. You don't lie, you don't steal, you say no to drugs. I actually, in the 3rd grade, I don't remember the DARE program, but I remember writing an essay for the DARE program and getting, an award from the president because it was, against drugs and all this. Wow. So, I mean, and drugs, alcohol, and who would have known? I mean, and then
but that's how we are, dude. We're so good.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, and she was, she was in the depths of, her own depression and anxiety and stuff with my dad. And she had that same mentality that I did, that, she wanted this perfect little family, and she grew up in a good household where her family was very good and they did all the things. And then she kind of just, she met my father, and he was a heroin addict, and she didn't really know anything about that. And it kind of destroyed her life, made her life crumble. She did get diagnosed with a crippling disease at age 28. She was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and she's actually in a wheelchair today because of it. But back then, it was back in the opiate era. It was back in the Oxycontin, and they were just pushing it out like candy, and they didn't really know what to do but to give that and steroids. And so when I would hurt, she'd just give that, and then all of a sudden, here we are. We're both just highly addicted to it, and and she thought of me like a best friend, and that's the way I she was very enabling, and we were very close, and closer than a mother and a daughter should have been, you know. And it's hard for me to say bad things about my mom because, you know, I know she did the best she could, and she loved her kids very much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were doing the best we can, and I think that it's important that you see that. I think too many people sit in that blame, and I think that it's the only way to truly get free is forgive, right? And understand that. Yeah,
it was easier to blame my dad than it was her, because I saw his was more, you know, it was more aware what he was doing, you know, as far as it was out there, you know, when the police showing up looking for him and men showing up looking for him, then I guess he'd stolen drugs from, and, you know, and finding him strung out in the garage, and, you know, just coming in and stealing stuff in front of us and walking out saying, "Don't tell your mother."
So so dad's in sobriety. How about mom? Is she sober?
Well, mom's in a nursing home. So her medicine is monitored very well. They have cut back a lot, but because of her disease, they do give her stuff. But she's doing very well. She's the youngest one in the nursing home because she's in her 50s. Wow. So she is, let's see, I'm 37. So I think she's like 55, I want to say.
Wow.
And she's in a nursing home because she can't walk.
Oh God. And was this due to her use, or is this just something from?
It was due to the arthritis and the unmanageability of it all. I mean, I'm sure the pain medication over the years didn't help.
It didn't keep her healthy. So all this goes on, you get sober, and your son, how's your son? I mean, you know, your son was involved in this for what, a couple of years at least. I mean, you know, and they say, you know, the kids know right from the beginning, you know, my son was 5 when I got sober, and I know he knew 100% hands down. He knew, you know, but what's everything like now? I mean, you know, you have a crazy great story, but now what are you reaping from it? Are you getting you getting the reward from it now because you're sober? And, you know, tell us the good stuff now, you know?
Okay. The good stuff.
Yeah.
And I was 2 when my son got sober, but he dealt with a lot of the aftermath, the cleanup of all that. So he did deal with a lot. So I did meet a wonderful man in recovery. I kissed a lot of frogs to find this. A lot of frogs and a lot of praying from my sponsor. But I met him, and he's in recovery also. So he had 2 years sober when we met. And when I tell you that somebody can love you more than you love yourself, that is him. You know, he still dealt with a lot of the craziness, even though I was, you know, I'm 14 years sober now. So I was 9-10 years sober when we met, and he was still dealing with a lot, but he dealt with a lot of the craziness, and he didn't leave. I couldn't get rid of him.
You tried, but he stuck around
through all the craziness. And my son, he became his dad.
Wow.
You know, and he called him his son, and he had 2 daughters from a previous marriage that we have custody of. Their mom's not around. So they were 5 and 7 when we got together. And, you know, so I got 2 beautiful daughters out of it.
Wow.
So we went from a family of 2 to a family of 5. And it was, you know, and you know, what's interesting is I got that life that I wanted, that sitting down at the dinner table with my kids. I was involved, even when I was a single mom, I was very involved in my son's life. I mean, he was in every sport you could name. I was the PTA mom. I was the scout den mom. I was very involved in his life. Now, I was crazy on the inside and inside the doors, but I was still very involved. But when I met my husband, you know, I got very involved in my daughter's lives. We did cheer, we did soccer, we did, you know, I was, you know, treasury of the PTA, which in my mind is very crazy because I suck at handling money, by the way. So
I do too. Yeah.
I'm very bad at it. I'm like, you want me to be in charge of the money? But so I was very involved in their life. Now they're all teenagers. So, so they're 16, they're 15, and they're 14. Okay. So they don't have anything to do with this.
Yeah, of course.
They're little assholes. But you know, it's normal. Now my son, he struggles. He does. He struggles. I'm very fearful of, you know, the road he might take. There's a lot of prayer that goes towards him. He's got bad anger issues. But I'm sober today and I can deal with it. He gets to see now what it's like to be in a good relationship with a good man and how he treats me.
Yeah.
And I know later down the road, he's going to see that.
That all comes back. Yeah, absolutely.
My daughters get to see what it's like to have a good man, as a father.
Yeah.
Which is so important.
It is very important because of my dad. It took me years to get to that,
Yeah. And that normal relationship. Well, I shouldn't say normal, because the only thing normal in my house is the setting on the dishwasher, I always say, because what's normal?
Yeah.
Right? There's no book, there's nothing to say normal, because life throws curveballs at us, right? And now you have an amazing family with a great husband that's taking care of all his children. That's the same thing that I have here. My daughter here, she's not my daughter, but I stepped up and my wife and I, they're coming home. Both of them are coming home today. I'm super excited to see them. So I understand that, where you kind of get that, you kind of get that family, and it doesn't matter if they're yours or not. It just matters because they're human beings and we're good human beings and we want what's best for them. And we love them more than we love ourselves sometimes, except for when they're teenagers or maybe 21 too. They're a pain in the ass.
You didn't see my house this morning before I got on here. It was pure chaos. I'm like, just everybody please stay out of this room.
Everything the camera shot is clean. There's all stuff piled up on the sides of the camera. No, I'm kidding, right?
Yeah.
I had
to get the good section,
There you go.
I had to get the good area.
Yeah, exactly. I like what you said, the cleanup and the aftermath. I know we've been going a little bit here, but I like that. So is the cleanup still going on?
Oh, yeah.
Is the aftermath? Is that still there, or is it talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
And how you're going through that, because I don't think that'll ever stop in my eyes, anyways.
And that's what I was going to say too. I don't think that, because you're always changing and you're always evolving, and there's always something that can still come up. And, so my past still, it affects me today. It affects, still how, like my son or my relation, because he's my living amends basically. And, he's the one that got, I think, hurt the most out of everything, out of all of it. And there's always going to, because I still make mistakes. So I know there's always going to be cleanup. The worst thing I hate doing is making amends to people. But I do. I have to do it. A lot of times it is to my kids and my husband. But yeah, so there's always going to be, cleanup and aftermath. One of the things I didn't share was when I was 5 years sober, I was sexually assaulted by one of my uncles. And I still kind of deal with some of that in my head a little bit, through counseling and my sponsor and God, I can get through anything with my relationship with God. He can't fix.
Yeah. You and thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being vulnerable about that, because there are people out there that think, once I get sober, things are going to be great. They still go wrong. There's still problems. but you have to, we get to deal with them. We get to move through them. Just because we're sober doesn't mean we're going to have $1 million in the bank. We're going to have the perfect wife, perfect husband. Well, you got it. You got the perfect husband. So
I got the perfect husband.
There you go. That's right. You got the perfect husband. But it doesn't say all that. It doesn't even, recovery guarantees us nothing but staying sober and recovery. And then whatever we pile on top of that is how we grow, and that's what you're doing. Of course shit's going to come up, and of course things are going to happen. And recovery is a journey. It's not, there's no end. We don't finish the book and say, okay, that's it. Let's move on. What else am I going to tackle today? We deal with this on a daily basis. We go to meetings, call our sponsors, do a show, whatever it is, help other addicts and alcoholics get sober. That's, to me, that's so rewarding, is that the job that you do. I do a similar job, and it is the most rewarding kind of job that I can ever have. And somebody asked me the other day and said, would you want to do anything else in the world if you could? I said, no, absolutely not. There is nothing, zero. I would not change a thing, I would just keep helping people. And, that sounds like exactly what you're doing, and Megan, it's just an inspiring story, just really inspiring and really, I'm happy. I'm so glad you came on. The minute I met you, I'm like, I got to get her on the show. I got to get her. And then she's like, yeah. I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't have to ask, have to send an email, none of that. She's like, yeah, I'm going to go on. And that's what really impressed me, is because you want to share these things that you have and make sure these people, if they're going through it, there is a means to end, or they don't have to go through it, because I went through it, and you don't have to take that path, right? You don't really need to take that path. Take another path and get sober, whatever the case may be. So, from getting a liver transplant to having a child very young to, drinking after the liver transplant, to finding your higher power, who you call God, to cleaning up aftermath and still going and showing up on the show today. I'm impressed, man. I am 100% fucking impressed with your story. Okay.
Same.
Yeah. It's just amazing. So, I hope we can get you back on the show somewhere down the road, or, you and I always get to talk every once in a while, because we do work in the field, and, I have that honor to work with you. Now I'm going to even smile a little bit more, because I know anybody that you're helping is going to get the best help that they can possibly get. And, that's just amazing. So anybody who walks into that hospital is going to get what they need, and, just amazing how we come to these points in our lives when we need, not that we have to give back. I need to give back, right? I really do need to give back, not because somebody saved me, not because somebody, stand over my shoulder, because I would be doing the community and myself an injustice if I didn't give back what I knew. Right. And I can see that in you, and why keep that in? Why hide that when it's just an amazing gift that we got? So, Beth, do you have any closing words for just Megan, just Madonna?
Just Megan. Your story is a bit, it's overwhelming. Yeah. And the light that you come across with, it's a true miracle. It really is. And, yeah, it's a testament to the power and omnipotence of God.
Yeah. True miracle. I love how you put that. Definitely a true miracle. Megan, thank you so much for being
I want to thank both of you too for everything y'all do. And this was just been such a privilege. And I was very honored that you asked me to come on. And so I just thank y'all so much.
Thanks. Thank you. And we're going to help the 4 people that listen to the show all the time. So there you go. So you'll probably know their names eventually.
Okay.
And, I'm just kidding. But Megan, again, and it's been amazing. And we always close the show by saying, stay sober, everybody.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.